Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about some interesting topic. Fun. Now can you tell me how is that you are going to prove yourself that you are a living organism? Fine. Somebody told because we breathe. Now how is that you define breathing? Right? Taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. So that is what we have learned in your lower classes. What is meant by breathing? Now, what is necessary? What is this air entering into our body doing in our body? And that makes us live. Okay, fine. Now, that is what in earlier classes you learned breathing. Now, the same thing when you come up into your higher classes, we discuss that breathing as under the topic respiration. So, our today's topic is respiration in organisms. Now, we are going to discuss about respiration in organisms. Now, before I discuss about the way respiratory organs or respiration in different organisms, let us first finish off this type of questions where now everybody in the class take in air, that is breathe in, right. So that is what we call it as inhalation. Now, from now onwards, you are going to learn all these terminologies. When you are breathing in air, that is what we call it as inhalation. Similarly, breathe out air. So, after breathing in, you breathe out. So, that is what is called as exhalation. Exhalation and inhalation put together, we call it as breathing, or what is called as respiration. Now, as such, when we are inhaling and exhaling, the air is entering into our body and leaving our body. So, if at all I pose a question, why is that we take in food? Automatically, you give me the answer because food gives us energy, right? That is the answer usually I get. We take in food because our body requires energy for performing various activities. Now, when we are taking food, so there it is only the digestive system working. For example, you are taking in food. So your complete digestive system from your mouth to your other parts of the digestive system like your food pipe, then stomach, then you have intestines, right? So all this part, wherever the food travels, that forms your digestive system. So nowhere in the digestive system there is liberation of energy. It is only the food is being digested. There are several enzymes acting on the food and helping the food to be digested, but no air in the digestive system, energy is released. So, as such, the digestive system and the respiratory system are interconnected. The food, whatever we take in, right, it is broken down into the simpler forms, and that is what we call it as digested food. And that digested food, right, is being absorbed by the blood. The digested food is being absorbed by the blood. And what will this blood do? It transports, right? It transports those digestive food material to all the cells present in our body. The blood is transporting the food materials, right, from the digestive system through all the cells of the body. Now, in the cells, the food has reached the cell. Now, in the cells, the energy is being produced. How it is produced? So, now comes the process of respiration. When you are taking in air, so the oxygen which is entering into our body, right? Along with the help of the blood, even it reaches the cells. So inside the cell, we have food as well as oxygen. Now comes the definition for respiration. Now, how is that we can define respiration? The oxidation of food material, right? The oxidation of food material in the cells gives rise to what is the gas you are exhaling? Right, carbon dioxide with a little bit of water, and then comes lots of energy being released. So that is how respiration is being defined as. Breathing as such you have learned in your earlier classes, taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. But how is that you are going to define respiration? Oxidation of food material in the cells, giving rise to carbon dioxide, water, and huge amount of energy. So this is what we are going to learn in this chapter called as respiration in organisms. Now when we begin with like what are the steps involved, how the process of respiration takes place. Now to begin with, respiration takes place in 3 steps, right? In 3 steps we can call it as, or we call or term it as internal, external, and cellular respiration. So as such, respiration takes place in 3 steps or 3 phases. The first phase is external respiration. Now what is meaning of external respiration? That is oxygen, that is air from the environment, from the outside is entering into our body. So where air enters into our body, we call that as external respiration. Now comes the second phase, what we call it as internal respiration. Now what is internal respiration? The air has entered into our body. Now from our body, it is reaching each and every cell. So when the oxygen reaches each and every cell, that we call it as internal respiration. How is it reaching each and every cell? Good. With the help of blood. It is reaching each and every cell. That is what we call it as internal respiration. Then comes the last is cellular respiration. Now what is cellular respiration? Where the food is being oxidized, right? Where the food is being oxidized. The food is being oxidized, which gives rise to carbon dioxide, water, and energy. That is what is called as cellular respiration. Is that clear? So this forms the 3 phases of respiration. Now we'll go a little bit further. Respiration in lower organisms. Lower organism in the cells, how is that? The intake of air and inhalation and exhalation taking place. To begin with, they are separate organs. We call it as respiratory organs. Can anybody give me what are the respiratory organs in you? Yes, right. Good. So the respiratory organs in us are lungs. Do you think that all the organisms will have such respiratory organs? Yes, they have different. They may not have lungs, but they have various different respiratory organs. To begin with, the smaller one, we take it for example, earthworm. Where do you find earthworm? Right. In the burrows. You find earthworm living in the burrows. Now, inside the earth, inside the burrow, how is that earthworm is going to respire? Right. There, the skin plays the role of respiratory organ. The skin is being supplied with numerous blood vessels. So thus the respiratory organ in earthworm is the skin, right? And the type of respiration, we call it as cutaneous. Cutaneous respiration. That is respiration in earthworm. Next, coming to insects. Insects like your cockroach, right? Butterflies, all these come under insects. Now, how is that respiration taking place in the insects? So, as such, respiration takes place through tube-like structures, right? Through tube-like structures called as trachea. Tube-like structures called as trachea. So, there we call that as tracheal respiration. Now, here in trachea, cockroach, you have all along the length of its body. It has minute openings, small openings. There, these openings, we call it as spiracles. These openings are called as spiracles. Now, these spiracles are connected with tube-like structures from different parts of the body. They are connected to tube-like structures. Now, these tube-like structures are called as trachea. And that is how, through the spiracles, through the trachea, the air enters inside the cells and where exchange of gases takes place. And that is how respiration occurs in cockroach or the insects. Next, coming to the aquatic organism, fish. Right. So you have learned about gills in the fishes. So here in the fishes, you have the respiratory organs called as gills. And the type of respiration is called as branchial respiration in fishes. Now, where do you find gills? On either side of the mouth of the fish, you find gills being present. Here, the water. Fish is a aquatic organism. So the water enters inside the mouth, right? From the mouth, it enters, passes through the gill pouches, where the gills are being completely immersed in the water. And when they are immersed in the water, the exchange of gases takes place. That is exchange. Whenever I use this word exchange of gases, that means the oxygen from the air enters into the cell and the carbon dioxide from the cell enters into the blood again or into the water again. So that is what is exchange of gases. So these three are different respiratory organs other than the lungs, which you told me will be in us. Now these lungs, it's not only in mammals, even in aves, amphibians, frogs also will have lungs, right? Frogs will have, then birds, aves in the sense birds. Birds also will have lungs, and also we as human beings also have lungs as a respiratory organ. And the type of respiration, we call it as pulmonary respiration. We call it as pulmonary respiration. Now, next, coming to another type of respiration, especially if we find it in the frogs. When the frogs are resting, they happily rest on the surface of the water. At that time, what happens? Through the nostrils, like us, the air enters inside the frog. Now, when the air enters in through the nostrils, it reaches the buccal cavity, what we call it as oral cavity. Over there only respiration takes place. And that type of respiration, we call it as Buccal respiration. We call it as buccal respiration, which takes place in the buccal cavity. Especially we find this in the frogs when they are floating on the water. Right? So in the next classes, we'll be learning about human respiration. Right? Before we enter into human respiration, I want to just discuss this off, right? This small topics, because human respiration is a little bit bigger, where in the next session I will take completely about the human respiration. But now I want to just deal with this types of respiration, right? Types of respiration. We learned about respiration in organisms. Now I'm going to just discuss about the types of respiration. Now what is that? There are types of respiration. Let me give an example of that. Now, Sir Vijay sir is conducting running race, right? It may be only for 50 meters race, right? So we want to win the race. For example, you want to win the race. What is that? You have to run very fast. Now, while running fast, imagine and tell me, to win the race while running fast, do you breathe or stop the breath for few seconds? Yes, we stop the breath for few seconds. That's the reason all the energy present in our body completely goes into our leg muscles and we run faster to win the race. So, depending on that, depending upon the availability of oxygen, the respiration has been divided into two major types. That is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, what is meant by aerobic respiration? As I told you, aerobic respiration, it occurs in the presence of oxygen. Presence of oxygen. Whereas anaerobic respiration, absence of oxygen. Absence of oxygen. So you may be wondering, what is this type of respiration? In absence of respiration, oxygen also it takes place. One better example I can give, where the organism undergoes anaerobic respiration and gives us tasty food. Yeah, idli batter, dosa batter, right? Then you have alcohol beverages also being prepared because of anaerobic respiration. Is that clear? So here in the idli batter and all, if you have seen your mother doing it, preparing the batter a day before, right? And then she closes the lid, and early in the morning when she opens the lid, then you can see the bulging up, the increase in size of the batter. So that is what is anaerobic respiration occurred in the batter because of the batter. Curd, you have learned about the curd. You have that bacteria lactobacillus present in the curd, which helps in the formation of curd. So that bacteria also undergoes anaerobic respiration. So as such, this occurs in presence of oxygen and this occurs in the absence of oxygen. Now, as such, when we are talking about respiration, I told you it is oxidation of food material. Now, what is the food we are taking in? That is your different components of your food are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, all these are different components of the food. But we take a simpler form for writing an equation for aerobic and anaerobic. We take a simpler form of respiration or a simpler form of carbohydrate, that is the glucose. Now everybody knows the formula for glucose. C6H12O6. This is the food material. How is that I define respiration? Oxidation of the food material. Now this is glucose, which is the food material. When it is being oxidized, oxidizes is nothing but addition of oxygen. When the food is being oxidized, it gives rise to what is that we are exhaling? Right. Carbon dioxide plus water plus amount of energy. Where is that we are using this energy? For performing various activities. Now when coming to anaerobic respiration, the same food material, right? The same food material, C6H12O6, but I told you occurs in absence of oxygen. So here there's no oxidation process. Now when this is undergoing anaerobic respiration, what is that is formed? Here carbon dioxide, here we find some materials like alcohol, right? Alcohol is formed along with a little bit of carbon dioxide, that smell which we get, carbon dioxide, along with that a very little amount of energy, very little amount of energy is being released. So thus for the formation of alcohol they use the anaerobic respiration. Maybe you have learned about this process called as fermentation. Right. The same thing is over here, used for the preparation of alcohol. So that is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Fine. Before we end, task for the next class. Previously, we discussed in nutrition in plants, where plants also breathe in. We discussed, I told you about the pores through which the air diffuses inside the plant. Now you are going to tell me in the next class what are the pores, where are they present, and how is respiration occurring in the plants. Okay, fine. Thank you. Bye.